folks who are just joining us or catching up can pop in later and review it. But welcome to this webinar. Sorry for the technical challenges this morning, and we appreciate the flexibility. Shauna Dorsey, not on video, but here and with the Aksarben Foundation. I'm with InternNE powered by Aksarben, and grateful to Michaela for being a co-host with me. And Michaela, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. I am Michaela Soundy. I'm with Grand Island Senior High. I work with students here for different work-based learning opportunities, including our internship program.
Great. And today we have DeMoine Adams with us with Teammates Mentoring Program CEO. He's talking to us today about effective mentoring. So we have a series of questions. Michaela and I will just bounce back and forth, and we'll have some time hopefully at the end for questions. But DeMoine is an easy person to reach, I would say. So you can find him online. But let's just get going. So DeMoine, can you just tell us a bit about yourself and maybe your path leading up to Teammates, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Sure. Born and raised Pine Bluff, Arkansas, raised by my grandparents, and very grateful I had mentors in my life to give me an example, to somewhat break that cycle as a first generation student, to be the first to go to college in my family, graduate. And then on top of that, just those experiences, which really shaped me to who I am today. Just thinking of my first internship, didn't really know what I was going into. I just knew I needed that experience. But my internship really set me up to be a professional in life. I played pro football, but one of the things that he emphasized was, one day you're going to have to go pro in life. So how I interacted with others, how I communicated, the way that I carried myself, conversation starters, all of those things have really shaped me to who I am today, and to be the leader, the role model for this incredible organization called Teammates Mentoring.
Wonderful. Thank you. Michaela, you want to kick us off with questions?
You bet. So DeMoine, beyond compatibility, what key qualities should both mentors and the mentees possess to foster truly transformative relationships?
I think just old school internships were more about telling students what to do. I think nowadays it's really important for that employer or that individual that's working with that student to show them how to do certain things. Kind of making this shift from being a manager to a coach. Also using more of their emotional intelligence instead of their IQ. These days, students need that connection. I think it's really important for a student not to go in feeling like an intern, so to speak, but to go in actually feeling like they are a part of that workplace culture. And then by them seeing the people, the interactions, the energy, the synergy, it allows them to adapt and understand how to carry themselves, how to dress, how to show up. It's one thing just to show up at work physically, but how to show up with your energy. So that relationship really starts with that employer and that student. And we're talking more of a coaching slash student relationship, really being that example, showing them how to work. Because these days, these students, they don't have as many examples and role models to know what work looks like. It's more than just money. It's how you carry yourself. And it's really important for employers to use their role to be that role model. And that's the relationship between mentorship and internship.
That's wonderful. So the second question we had was, you kind of answered that with your last response. So we appreciate that. So I'm going to dig into this question about diversity. So diversity of perspective strengthens teams, as we all know. But how can you share how mentorship programs can be designed to be inclusive, equitable, ensuring the benefits, ensuring participation and benefit for all employees, regardless of their backgrounds?
Based on my organization, Teammates Mentor, what makes us inclusive is based on the investment that we make in Gallup. We are a strengths-based organization, and that really allows us to honor what makes someone uniquely gifted and talented and how they contribute to the team. Diversity is beyond someone's skin color. We're talking gender, we're talking ethnicity, we're talking religion, we're talking experience, height, weight, age, all of those things. And it's important to create a workplace where everyone feels like they belong. That's why thinking about students, when they go into an internship, it's important for that employer to make them feel like they belong. It's also important for that employer to expose students to a wide variety of people, of talent, and being able to use their example of, back in the day I was here and then I had to go here. But it's this also, I would like to call it this challenge of individuals diversifying themselves. I think so much emphasis on other people taking this ownership of giving people these diversified experiences. But from my experience, I took advantage of whether it was an internship experience or some type of gathering where I was invited to an event, that opportunity to diversify myself, adapt to the environment around me, understand the different conversations, understand the different levels of people, the socioeconomic levels and education levels, and really becoming comfortable with who I am. So I think we all contribute differently to the workplace. That's important for that employer to help students understand. And then just, kudos to what Gallup research is doing and their investment in their tools, because when we lead with our strengths, that helps us to really own our natural gifts and talents. And I think that's so important for us to help our young people when they go into the workplace so they don't compare themselves to other people. They can just be themselves. And that's so important as we help our young generation to be the next generation of leaders, not followers.
Yep, that's great.
So I want to take it from a little bit more broad perspective into how we can make this work in organizations. So we know that formal programs can create structures, but how can an organization cultivate a culture of mentorship organically, encouraging informal connections and knowledge sharing within their organization?
Sean is going to smile at this remark. There's a difference between being transactional and being relational. I think when anyone goes into an internship, whoever is responsible for that student needs to have this relational attitude, this sense of I care about you as a person, I care about your development. Yes, there is a list of components that we need to check off: time management, interpersonal communication, interpersonal skills, all of those things. But how do they look? How do they sound? How do we practice them together? That's the difference between, telling someone, all right, here are your dumbbells and your weights, get bigger, better, and stronger. But to have that personal trainer to show them how to lift and develop to get bigger, better, and stronger, that's the game changer. And that's the game that we have to be able to change when it comes to the way that we do internships. It's more than just checking a box. It's more than just going down a list. We need more employers to step up and see themselves as developmental coaches so that they can develop our talent, cultivate our talent, so that wherever they go after that, we have trained them, we have conditioned them to be the workers that we need them to be. There's so many people complaining about how interns and students are lazy and they don't know how to work. Well, who's showing them how to work? So that's the difference between this curriculum, this one sheeter versus someone that becomes their curriculum. They become that one sheeter and they show them, they practice with them, they become their personal trainer.
I couldn't agree with that more. We have a few of our businesses that host both apprenticeships and internships, and the ones that are by far the most successful for us are those that take and they assign a mentor to that individual. They forget that our kids coming out of high school, but I think the same is true for the college kids. Is sometimes they're even scared to just ask a simple question for fear of it sounding silly to them. But those when they realize that it's okay to ask those questions and they have that person that they can work with and that can mentor them, they take off. It's awesome to watch that relationship build.
Yes.
So I'm thinking if we can be a little flexible, I'll ask one more question, and it's about roadblocks in the mentoring relationship. And then maybe we can flip over to Q&A, Michaela, if there are questions that are starting to pop up, if you can see that. Cool. So I'll ask the question, DeMoine, and we'll go from there. But so mentorship isn't always smooth sailing, as you know. How can mentors and mentees navigate conflict, address differing personalities, overcome potential roadblocks in the relationship? So some things that you've seen work.
You know, it may feel like I'm putting a lot of pressure on employers when it comes to their role being mentors. I do feel that as we continue to evolve the internship world, we need to train employers on what it means to serve as a mentor, what it means to actually take on an intern. So just like for teammates mentoring, we train our mentors on how to be there for young people. I think that same approach needs to take place when it comes to being mentors to our students. Part of that training includes having crucial conversations. You know, there's a difference between calling someone out versus calling someone up. Just like in a game of football, if I'm a running back and I fumble the football, there's a difference between my coach saying, don't fumble the football versus hold on to the football. And here's how you hold on to the football. You know, our students, they have high anxiety. A lot of them do not take constructive criticism very easy. You have to slowly and compassionately build them constructively with compassion, with patience, with grace. So the best example that I can give is when you're having that crucial conversation with that person, you don't just tell them what they're doing wrong, but remind them of what they're doing right. If you're going to highlight their weaknesses, highlight their strengths. If you're going to highlight what they can do, highlight what they can do. But there's one thing that I can just say, just from experience, that really built up my confidence when receiving constructive criticism. Don't just point out what I'm doing wrong. You know, show me what I can do right. And don't forget to highlight what I am bringing to the table, because hope is the greatest indicator of success. And if we truly want to set our students up for success, we have to lead with this strengths-based growth mindset, because strengths is what leads to hope, engagement, well-being, and that's what leads to academic success, confidence, and I believe that it involves training. And being a mentor is not for everyone, unfortunately. But I do believe that if anyone is willing to take the time to receive that mentorship investment, then they are taking the time to invest in our young people, because the future belongs to those who prepare for it. And if we can prepare the workforce to be better mentors, to be better examples, to be better role models, and understand what our students are going to face in a very compassionate way, then when they get to the real world, the game of life, as I call it, they will understand grit, resiliency, and know that constructive criticism is not meant to knock them down. It's meant to build them up. It's meant to help them to improve. So this concept of growth mindset, I think, is language that many of us can always revisit, refresh ourselves. But that's the game changer.
Yeah.
Agree. This is a quick reminder to everybody that you can submit questions you have using the Q&A that's there on, not through the actual chat. Looks like we do have a question here from Erica. It says, thanks for joining us this morning, DeMoine. Do you have any thoughts on the frequency of mentors meeting with mentees, weekly, bi-weekly? Also, do you suggest a formal or informal structure when meeting with these mentees? If formal, what's some important things to check up on?
It's a great question. I think there should be three levels. I think there should be a quick connect. How are you doing? How was your weekend? How are your parents? How are you feeling? That quick connect is like that 10 minutes. You're checking on that human side of that mentee. Then that check-in should be weekly. We're talking 20 to 30 minutes. What are you doing? How are you doing? And just really those reminders, that soft accountability. And then that overall formal accountability should be once a month. So this is just coming from Gallup, just when it comes to that quick connect, that check-in, and then an overall meeting. So to answer your question, that quick connect should be weekly. That check-in should be weekly. We're talking 20 to 30 minutes. And then that formal process of let's go over your body of work should be monthly, once a month.
Cool.
I don't see any more questions at the moment.
Okay. Well, we have a few minutes left, and DeMoine, I'm thinking if you both are okay with it, because DeMoine will also smile at this. You couldn't see me smiling earlier when you were talking about transactional versus relational, but you were so right. But I think we should do a take two at some near future date with DeMoine Adams and just spend more time on this, because I think this is a big, very important topic. It's one of the key aspects of the InternNE powered by Aksarben initiative, which is really focused on high quality experiences for interns, which is squarely focused on mentorship. So if you're open to it, we're going to get calendars synced and figure this out.
Love it. And I love your phrase high quality, because that's exactly what Aksarben is trying to do. We're not just trying to get the job done. We're trying to get the job won here. We're trying to help students to be winners in this game called life. And so I would be happy to do this part two.
Perfect. Any questions in there, Michaela? Or are we still looking pretty good?
We don't have any more.
Okay. Do you have any final?
Hold on. One just came in. Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Right
Good.
as you said it. Okay, DeMoine, first off, thanks for presenting in Go Big Red. How do we make sure the personalities align with mentors and mentees? It can be very difficult relationship when that is the case.
You know, and it may seem like I'm advertising Gallup, but you know, when teammates mentoring works with employers, one of the things that we do is we provide that employer and an intern with the Clifton Strengths Finder assessment. For that employer to know their top 5 strengths and a student to know their top 5 strengths, and they have conversations around strengths, it really allows that employer and that intern to honor, respect, and understand what makes them different, but what makes them unique. And so I'm an introvert. My employer may be an extrovert. And it's so important for that relationship to be built so there could be this understanding. One of my strengths is individualization, which allows me to really tailor my coach and my leadership to that person. I believe that there is no one leadership in a box approach. And when it comes to strengths, that employer and that student, they get to know this is who I am, this is who that person is. And in terms of being inclusive, I think really we have to do a better job of putting ourselves in other people's shoes and just knowing that it's not about being different, it's about being unique. So we all have different personalities. I used to use being an introvert as an excuse, but I've learned to own it, and I've learned to keep growing. I learned to expose myself and grow myself around people to help me to be outgoing. So most people would not even know I'm an introvert, but experience is the best teacher. And when you surround yourselves around positive role models, mentors that fill your bucket up with confidence, with hope, and encouraging you to be yourself, that has allowed me to be myself and be okay with being who I am today. But when we get off this call, I'm going to have to take a deep breath and recharge, but that's okay. But people
Yeah.
like Shauna, she's a go, 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 go. If she was a Apple iPhone, she wouldn't need a charger, but I would need to be charged. But I think just that understanding, my perspective of inclusion is so much broader, is so much deeper. And I think as a society, but particularly in the workplace, we have to do a better job of honoring, respecting, and appreciating the different personalities, knowing that we all contribute in one team, one uniform, one attitude. That's what culture is.
That is so great. With that, I know we're at time, so we're going to wrap. And I do want to say to DeMoine, number one, thank you for being here. Two, I also am an introvert. I know people don't realize that. It's pretty funny, but it's true. Um, we will see you all soon, and we'll get DeMoine on the calendar again and send out an invite that will work the first time. It's all good. But thank you all so much. And thanks, Michaela, for co-hosting.
Thank you all.
Thank you.